What is the science about getting someone to say yes? Specifically, as we build business coaching practices, what is the science for them to say, I want to work with you? That's what we're discussing on this training, the science behind getting clients. BJ O'Neill here with Business Coach Mastery. And this comes up often. When we're building relationships, we're building rapport with prospects, business owners. Why do some succeed and others struggle? There's obviously a variety of answers to that. But one that I think that doesn't get talked about enough really is all about how God created you and God created me, right? We are created differently, period. And when we understand how we're created and how that plays a role into the decisions that we make, that's where when someone is building their business coaching practice can literally go from zero to hero pretty quickly because they understand the process. More importantly, they understand why someone is saying yes. They understand why someone is saying no. It's not always just what someone is saying to you, to your face. Oftentimes, there's a lot of things in the background that they're not revealing. And as you build a relationship, you want to get to know them deeper to understand better, okay? So this is one of those things that's a journey, right? I'm going to give you some things, the key points and principles to kind of examine and to think about at a high level. You certainly want to continue to unpack them, learn about them, research them, study them. And the ones that will do this, that will go the extra mile to really understanding how we're all wired and what really moves people to move forward or to not move forward, those are the ones that really stand a chance of having a significant success rate in building a business coaching practice. The first thing is understanding the psychology of decision making. All right, I want you to think about that. The psychology of why you, why me, why others say yes, no, or pause, or wrestle with things. There are a lot of things that are going on. And again, this is why you have to kind of have a long-term look at researching to learn it, if you will. And what I'm about to share with you, we could go into an 8-week course on this alone. But again, I'm going to keep it at a high level. The first key principle is all about the cognitive bias. In other words, there's going to be some people you're going to sit down with, and they're really just wanting you to confirm what they already know or what they think that they know. They're not that interested in being challenged. And so when we don't understand that and we are pushing them, that is like saying, look, man, not for me, right? It's creating a barrier and creating a wall. We're going to examine several things that do that very thing. So the skill that we need to develop is to be able to listen intently enough to pay attention. Is this person kind of surfing and swimming in this whole, cognitive bias arena? In other words, they just want to be confirmed on what they really know. And a great coach is going to guide them through great questions to move them to get some aha moments to where they unleash that cognitive bias form. Sometimes when we push too soon and too hard too soon, it kind of crumbles everything. We're left with wondering, well, what happened? Well, you may have just pushed them too far. Another part of bias is called an anchoring bias. In other words, there's one big anchor. There's like one big thing that if we figured it out with them, they're going to say yes like that. So if we spend time and we're just kind of overly sharing features and benefits about coaching, which you should never do, by the way, we are always looking for transformation. How do I help in business coaching specifically? How do I help them move the needle to improve their profits, their revenues, their leadership, their culture? How do I help them do that? But more importantly, in the beginning, which one is that anchoring reason that they're really looking for? And here's how you kind of notice it, is when they have just like a, that's it kind of moment, right? This aha moment-ish kind of deal where you kind of landed on it. Don't move on. Like don't keep talking about all your stuff and how wonderful you are and how wonderful you can help them, whatever. They found it. You'll rest upon that and expand that and explore that with them. So one of the key psychological reasons of decision making is the cognitive bias area. Confirmation bias and anchoring bias are the things you want to kind of pay attention to. The next thing is emotional decision making inside the psychology of decision making. A lot of people are wired emotionally. And here's the thing. Not everybody is. And so when you begin to understand that someone is really, laying into that emotional part, we begin to understand why that they need it. It may be appealing to their values. There's a lot of people who build their businesses and they're very aware of their values. They talk about them. They're a part of their nature. They're part of their DNA. Well, if you're not leaning into that, then you're missing an area of opportunity. Look at someone like Chick-fil-A, right? They are very open about their values of what they stand for and how that permeates throughout their entire business. Well, if you're working with someone like that, where they're constantly talking about those types of things, that's a bell ringer that they're definitely leaning into. This is an emotional thing because I'm passionate about what we stand for. Okay, others, when it comes to the emotional decision making, is creating a sense of excitement. If you come in super dry, and they're looking for excitement and rah-rah and cheer. They're a super bright individual, but you're flat in your personality, and it just is what it is. Likely to be a barrier of reasoning where they're going to go, this is just not the fit for me, and this is going to scientifically be the reason why they're just like, no, this is not. I'm not going to move forward. Now, I'm not suggesting that you change your personality. What I'm saying is, if you know that you're breaking bread with somebody who's bubbly, whatever, and maybe that's not you, that's fine. But you need to lean in a little bit, perk up a little bit, and join them in that excitement. Be more joyful, smile more, be intent about, joining them in their journey of where they want to be. That's how you get on their level to be able to really understand them, communicate with them, connect with them, and build a legitimate relationship. Another reasoning for emotional decision making is all about storytelling. All right. This is the reason. Stories are why we go to the movies. Stories are why people love books. They love both biography style of someone's actual story, or even novels and fables and whatnot. This is how Jesus taught, right? He taught in parables. He did that all throughout his ministry. So we know, even from a biblical perspective, that stories matter. Well, BJ, I don't have any stories. That's not what we're talking about. You can use everybody else's stories. Everything from back, years and years ago. You can talk from a framework of people like P.T. Barnum, very bizarre dude. But look what he produced and what he did. And if you read a story, there's some amazing marketing things that just highlighted the opportunity to build something that no one had ever built. When you take elements of somebody's story from the past, it has nothing to do with you. It just gives people ideas. It gives them in that zone to go, well, what about me in my situation? Sharing stories with big companies, McDonald's, Apple, Samsung, like they've got amazing, cool stories. You probably have seen the memes of all the different companies in America specifically that were started in a garage. Like, what are the elements that they went through? Learning those, sharing those. And of course, you can bring your story into it. Of course, you can bring your story of your own clients and things that you go through to connect. That gets them just really interested in what you have to say. This is also part of what we call becoming the hunted. In other words, they're leaning in. And they're getting familiar with you. They're getting to really understand you. They like what they hear. That's a part of the psychology, okay? So another key principle. So we talked about cognitive bias. We talked about emotional decision making. Another one is social influence. In simplicity, get me choked up on my own words. In simplicity, this is the reason why the term influencer marketing, you see this all the time in Instagram, TikTok, and all the others. This is not anything new. Celebrities are being used in ads for decades upon decades upon decades. You look at the entire purpose why Air Jordans, the sneakers, why are they so incredibly popular? Because of Michael Jordan. That's an influencer. Well, how does that work in our world in building a business coaching practice? Very simple in two things. One, when you are building specifically key principles around creating of joint ventures, you are pairing up with somebody professionally. This is not just in a loose relationship. It could be even a monetary gain between those. And those complementary joint ventures usually are CPAs and financial planners, business brokers, digital marketing companies, media companies that sell advertising and so on, like billboards, radio, TV, and all the things that apply. When you create relationships with them and they're introducing you to somebody else, that is a version of influence because they know you. And certainly the next one by far is referrals, right? Organic or just, hey, this is my friend, I'd like to get you to know them. When you are building relationships both in a professional manner with joint ventures and both with just people that you know in your network and they're introducing you because of the application that you've done to expand your network, that can have a huge impact for someone says, I'm going to say yes because I trust that partner or I trust that friend. That's where social influence comes from. And the last one, key principle around the psychology of decision making, is all about scarcity and exclusivity. There's a large number of people, they want a deal or they want major value. They want to get in a small circle. And so it's things like limited availability. We're only going to create 10 of these spots or 5 of these spots. Well, I want to be that because being exclusive matters to me. Exclusive offers. This is going to only be available if you do this, that, and the other. There's a lot of people who love these types of things. In the business coaching, if you offer tiers, and a part of your tiers is high-end coaching, in other words, if you have your normal, one-on-one coaching, and most clients, or rather coaches charge around $2,000 per month. That's the average that coaches charge. But let's say that you do something really special. It's $5,000 a month. You're going to spend one day out of the month with them. You're going to do all these different things that have a significantly more value and time versus just your one-on-one coaching. But you're only going to do it with 2 people throughout the year or whatever the number is, right? And so it's a combination of scarcity, limited, and exclusion as well. And there are people who that's what gets them excited. They're just not as interested in the normal things. That's cool, but man, you talk about high-end stuff and exclusivity and it limiting. I want to be one of those because they really are motivated in their DNA by those types of opportunities. So when you look at everything I just shared with you, that's where you got to learn. You got to research. You got to want to have a journey. What you can't make the mistake of doing is simply just going in and building relationships with no thought to it whatsoever. And you certainly don't want to just talk about how wonderful business coaching is and the 5 reasons why they should hire a business coach. The truth is, no one cares. You want to be able to connect with them and understanding the way God created us. This is the science part. God created science and how we're wired and how we communicate and whatnot. When we really get on a playing field to really understand that at a deeper level, things can dramatically change. All right? So that's the psychology of decision making. The next is the role of trust and credibility. This one's a little bit easier to understand, right? Probably don't have to overly explain to you why trust and credibility are a key cornerstone. How do we do this? Well, the goal, number 1, is that we want to understand, or we need to understand rather, that they need to know us, they need to like us, and they need to trust us, okay? If any one of those 3 are missing, usually there is a backpedaling or a stall or even a no. And we're just wondering, like, well, what's the problem? I thought I presented something great. Well, if they haven't really, gotten to know you well, and this is where you have to have a dedicated plan to do that very thing. And that's going to come in all kinds of different forms, right? If you're in the networking game and you're getting around folks, in a community, it's a big part of that community at a deep level you really are in it to build legitimate, authentic relationships that matter where you care. And that means among the whole group, right? If there's 20 people in that room, I care about all of them and I want to get to know them all. A few of them over time likely could potentially become a paying client of mine, right? But we want to care about them all. Because if all they sense is that you're just trying to pick people out of the pack only type of deal, that's where it's going to damage this opportunity of trust. So we want them to care about our personal brand, how we're presenting ourselves, our message, the things that come out of our mouth in all the ways, our website, our emails, our texts. If you write books or whatever, you can extend that and you can also then showcase your expertise, right? How can I showcase my expertise? Well, this is where blogs come into play. This is where conducting workshops come into play. This is where potentially, if you're interested in doing podcasts, come into play. Or just like this training right here, you're doing video to where you're helping them to learn something or to connect to something that they may not have known. This is what I always call, if you watch enough of our trainings, the aha moments. They matter. It's kind of like building relationships with someone without you actually physically having to always build a relationship, because you're communicating your expertise, you're communicating story, you're communicating what's missing potentially in helping them to move their business along. huge, huge piece to the puzzle. And certainly creating a sense of rapport is critical in building a legitimate relationship where trust and credibility increase, period. Now, when you mix some of these things together, back to the psychology part too, where you're interacting with others who are introducing you, that's another picture, another piece of the puzzle where credibility and trust can also play a role. So some of these things will absolutely connect and or even overlap, or by far, they really do go together. And the last thing, this is a big one, the importance of clarity and simplicity. So used to back in the day, I'm an ideas guy. So I'd come into the relationship and I'd fire off 1,000 different ideas. I mean, you should do this, just because I do have that skill set of just seeing a lot of opportunity, big picture, vision casting. That's just a kind of a core part about, how I'm wired, right? Well, not everyone's wired that way. And what it would do, it would bring overwhelm to the relationship and just make it strained. And eventually someone said to me, he said, dude, listen, you gotta slow down. Like I cannot just, receive all of what you're saying. And I'm not even sure if all of it even works or fits. So you don't want to do that, number one. You certainly want to present things with clarity. And that usually means doing less of it than more. You want to be slow about it rather than fast. And you want to provide and prove simplicity. I'll give an example. So inside of our Done For You coaching system, in our community, we use software, we use systems, and we use processes to do this very thing. As a matter of fact, when we are coaching our clients, we have a roadmap of simplicity, and we have a little saying that says we're going to coach you one strategy at a time and one step at a time. So we provide a specific roadmap, and all we're going to do is to focus on one strategy. And as we're walking through with them, in our sessions with them, we're focused on one step of that strategy. Clients love it. It brings clarity. It reduces overwhelm. It helps them to recognize things oftentimes that they've never even thought about before because everything is overwhelming. We don't want to do this. And I'll tell you, when you're sitting down and you're showing someone a path forward with clarity and simplicity, it can be, and I don't like hyperbole, but it can be game-changing because this is what's helping them to empower them to reach over their head to pull their light bulb string, to give these light bulb moments, to have these aha moments. If we're flooding them with constant content and information and whatever, and then everybody, receives things differently. Some can consume a lot, some can't. That's fine. But when we're just constantly more, and we're not slowing it down to really walk them through, that can be a roadblock as well. So I've kind of laid out at a high level the things that you really need to pay attention to understand the science of why somebody may be connecting with you or why they may not be connecting with you. We want to understand the psychology of decision making. You want to research that to get really to understand it and develop that skill. You want to understand the role of trust and credibility and why building legitimate relationships matter. We are not transactionally selling. You should not transactionally sell. It's a lot harder. And as the moment it's not going well, you're out of the picture. Versus if you want longevity, you build relationships. And then the last one is the importance of clarity and simplicity. Now, there's more, but I have found that these three areas alone, if you can work at improving these areas in your world and in your coaching business, it can have a dramatic effect from a positive perspective. Now, if you are watching this training, you're not in our coaching community, you're curious about what is this whole Done For You system, we'd love to kind of share with you what we do. You can go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. You can get some information we share with you there. And if you're interested in learning more about it, you can book a quick chat where we can just kind of go over you at a high level, exactly how we support you, the tools that we provide for you, everything done for you, on how to get leads, on how to convert those prospects, and how to close and coach them rather with simplicity. We'll show you what we do. That way you can determine if it's worth learning more about, and we'll go from there. Okay, until next time, take care.